Hello and welcome to Royal Reviewer Live Weekly Chat. I'm just going to wait until a few people get here. We usually have a really fantastic crowd every single week, so this is one of the absolute highlights of my week. So I've gotten into the habit of preloading the chat window, so I should just be able to go straight to the live chat. And here we are. So basically, for those of you who are new to the live chats, the format is really easy. You can ask me anything you want about the royal family. Just find the chat window that you can see on your screen, type me a question, and I will answer you as best as I can. Now, as with every week, I never know what the questions are going to be. So sometimes we learn together. Sometimes we have some fantastic people like Steve on fact check, and we can all learn and experience things together. So hello to Amina C, who says hello, and hello to a big hello to Abby Griffin from Telford. Big hello to Freya Baldwin-Stewart. And you ended a date early to do this. Oh my goodness, please tell us about the date that you ended. Hello to Candice, who is Van Aal girl. And she says, hi there, Elliott, and hello to everyone. Noreen says, loving the braces. Thank you very much. They are new. Nina says, hello, Elliott. And if you haven't noticed, I'm wearing the Queen's flower basket brooch, which she was seen wearing for her birthday. So I thought that was really appropriate. I know it's a week late, but because we do the live chats every single Saturday, 10 o'clock GMT, I thought I'd wear it today. I hope you all have your drink, your favourite drink ready. I know we all have our different ones. I've got my tea, which I'll be sipping through the live chat because I do lots of talking. And as usual, I've got my list. But I never really need it because you always mention everything that I've pretty much got on here anyway. And it's been a very voluptuous royal week. Lots going on again. I thought last week was busy, but this week's been almost just as busy. Hello to Ray Lee, who says, hi, here, loving seeing you live. You always watch on catch up, of course. It's always great to have people here live, but if you can't make it to any of the live chats, don't worry, you can watch it on catch up. Once I've filmed and recorded this live chat, it goes straight onto YouTube, so you can always catch up if you miss it. Hello to Jennifer. Hello to Melody Brunel, who says, can you tell us about Prince Philip's sister Sophie? Well, we'll get to that question a little bit later. I'll just do all the hellos first. Ansi says, can you believe it's been 5 years since William and Kate got married? Oh, 6 years. I read that wrong. I was going to say it's 6 years, not 5. Wow, I can't believe that. That's just gone so fast. And I am going to be putting, although it's a little bit late for people in the UK, I am going to be putting a celebration video together of the fantastic 6 years that they've had. Susan says, I'm in love, more than 3 years waiting for your sweetheart Harry. I'm afraid he's taken. You probably won't ever get to have Harry, but Meghan does, or should I say Rachel? Her real name is Rachel. Angel says, is Kate or Catherine Middleton? Well, not even Middleton. She's married to William now. I'm not sure why people still keep calling her Kate or Catherine Middleton. But is she having baby number 3? As of yet, we don't know. The thing with Catherine's pregnancies are that we always find out if she is pregnant before the 3rd trimester because she suffers from extreme morning sickness, which means that when she goes into hospital very early on in the pregnancy, it's usually a couple of weeks into the pregnancy that she falls ill. It's all announced that she's pregnant. So unlike other royal births, we kind of find out fairly early. So seeing as she hasn't gone into hospital, there's been no announcement, and there's always speculation that she's pregnant, I would err on the side of caution and say that no, she's not pregnant until we know any further details. But in terms of time scale, from when Princess Charlotte was born, another baby could be on the cards. Let's remember she comes from a family of 3 children or 3 siblings herself. So it's not without the realms of possibility that she may be looking to have 3 children, and that could be soon, but nothing confirmed yet. So I hope that answers your question. Freya says it was your boss's son. He took you to a Pizza Express, so it was a sort of forced date. Oh my goodness. What type of pizza did you have on your date? I'd really love to know. Noreen says, is Catherine pregnant? Well, I think I just answered that one. But it's basically a case of we don't know. Ohio says hello. Hello to Ohio. Oh, and by the way, Van Isle girl, Candice, is one of my first $20 patrons on Patreon. And as one of the rewards, she gets to have her name put in the live chat description. So if you check in the live chat description box, if you scroll down, you will see that reward posted in there now. It should be there now. Okay, Susan says, no cheating, Prince Harry, even if 10 years and waiting. So you're going to wait for Prince Harry, even if it's 10 years? That could be a very long wait. Wendy says, what's all this about Charles divorcing Camilla? Well, we spoke about these rumours last week. And on last week's live chat, I had a little bit of a rant. And it ended up being one of my most popular live chat videos. It's had over 1,500 views so far. But basically, all of this about him divorcing Camilla has all come about by a website or a YouTube channel in particular on YouTube called The Top Half. And The Top Half is actually spreading lots of vicious rumours about Camilla and other members of the royal family. It's totally not true, and it's very irresponsible of those people to post lies and fakery across the internet, because unfortunately some people, particularly people not from the UK, people overseas, believe what they see. So it's very irresponsible and it's not true. They aren't divorcing, their marriage isn't in turmoil, the Queen hasn't banished Camilla, Catherine's not upset with Camilla. All of these vicious lies are just a complete load of tripe, as we say in the UK. Susan says good night. And Nina says the top half has been busy this week. Yes, they have, spreading their vicious, vile lies, which please don't get me into another rant. Noreen says, I missed last week's live chat as you were on holiday in Devon and the Wi-Fi wasn't good. Oh no, that's really bad when you're away and you can't get good Wi-Fi. Freya says, it's okay, Noreen, you missed it too. Van Isle says, or Candice, I am honoured to be one of your patrons. Thank you very much. And we did speak about Patreon last week. And for those of you who don't know, it's a little bit of an addition to YouTube. It's where creators go to set up an account and viewers can become patrons of it. And Candice is one of my patrons, currently up to 6 patrons. And you can choose different amounts to subscribe to each week. You can cancel whenever you want. I won't be mad. And all the money gets put towards goals which I've set for the channel. So all the money raised goes back into the channel to make more content, better content, can possibly send me off site so I can go and film things for real and report back. And basically, you don't just donate money and get nothing. You get rewards like birthday cards signed from me and Christmas cards and your name featured in the chat box. Access to exclusive Royal Reviewer Facebook groups, your questions answered first if you've got one on the live chat section. So lots of rewards, and it's developing. Even as we speak, I'm working on merchandise and extra rewards. So if you want to check it out, the link is in the description on this video. It's www.patreon.com/Royal Reviewer. Jennifer Montgomery says, I unsubbed from the top half, and I would urge everyone to do the same because it's complete nonsense and lies. And yes, it is, and other trash news shows. Emily says, when do you think will be the perfect time for Harry to get married? If things are advanced in the relationship as what I think, we could possibly have an engagement announcement in the autumn. Sort of September time, pretty much the same time in the year that Catherine and William announced their engagement. with possibly a wedding next year in the spring. However, that is complete speculation. That's nothing's been announced yet. That's if it follows the same pattern as William and Catherine, and if things are as advanced as what they seem. Which, so tentatively, I will say, I predict an announcement in the autumn with a wedding in the spring. So let's wait and see if my prediction does actually come true. But of course, I'd never put that on a video because it is just sheer speculation, and I am not the top half. Wendy says you will unsubscribe too. I really hope people do, because they've had millions of views in just a couple of months. I think they posted something like 1,500 videos in 2 months of just complete and utter trash. Nobody can post that many videos and have accuracy. It's just complete lies, and they're making money from it, and they're just fooling people basically. So please, if you are a subscriber of the top half that posts stories about the royal family, please unsubscribe. Jason Lewis Young says, I'm here just listening with earphones. Fatherhood is exhausting. Oh my goodness, so Jason has his new baby, his new child. So congratulations to Jason, who's just become a father. Melody Brunel says, can you tell us about Prince Philip's sister Sophie? Why didn't the Queen approve her marriage to Prince George William of Hanover? Basically, it's not up to the Queen to sanction that relationship, because she wouldn't be technically, I suppose, one of her subjects. It wouldn't fall, and because she didn't have a place in the line of succession, she wouldn't have had to have approved it. So whether or not she did approve of it, we don't know. That's speculation. I don't, as far as I'm aware, that's not been put out in the public that she didn't. Of course, the Queen never gives interviews and tries to let her private feelings always stay private. So unfortunately, we don't really know that much about it, or I don't. If anyone does know anything about it, or if there has been anything released that's come to light recently, please let me know. But as far as I'm aware, there hasn't, and that was private and possibly speculation. Noreen says, fake news is such an issue on YouTube. You can always tell the fake royal news channels because they hide behind computerized voices. Yes, the dreaded computerized voice. You like this channel, Royal Reviewer channel, because it's authentic and personal. Well, thank you very much. I'm really happy and pleased that you think that. Dana Zoe Guest says, good evening everyone from Boston, and hello to Dana Zoe Guest. Angel says, Catherine is having a baby. The royal family have a secret in the family news. Don't know if I'm a medium. Can see okay. I think you're talking about the rumours that are persisting about Catherine having a baby, which, I mean, I can't remember a week when someone hasn't asked me if she's pregnant. As I said slightly earlier in the chat, nothing's official. It's coming up to the time where she could potentially be having another baby, baby number 3, but nothing official yet. And if she is pregnant, we'll always find out fairly early, because she suffers from severe morning sickness. So she's always ended up in hospital within 2 weeks of becoming pregnant, and then we always find out about it. Jennifer says, well, good night. I will become a Royal Reviewer patron. Thank you very much. Just head over to that site. The link is in the description, and you can choose the best reward package for you. Okay, Dana says, perfect outfit with the floral basket. The history of the pin. This is Queen Elizabeth's flower basket brooch, and it was given to her for her birthday, and she wore it for her birthday this year. Melody says, why is Prince Harry known mostly by a nickname when nobody else is in the royal family? Yes, of course, Harry's real name is Henry. He was christened Prince Henry of Wales. Of course, Harry is a long-standing British nickname for anyone called Henry. That's why, if you think back to Tudor times with Henry VIII, he was known as the Good King Harry, even though his name's Henry. So yes, his official name is Henry, but even on the official Buckingham Palace website, he's known as Prince Harry. So I think it's just a nickname that's stuck and used throughout his life, and it's used in his personal and private and professional life. So it's just something that we have to just live with, and of course it's not a big thing to live with, it's just a name. And talking about names, I think Meghan, if she does marry into the royal family, I think she'll go back to her real name, which of course is Rachel, Meghan being her middle name. Dana wishing Jason congratulations on becoming a father. Angel says, I live in Oregon. So hello to everyone in Oregon. Vanal saying, congratulations, is it a boy or a girl? Freya says, as a descendant of George II, it did have to be approved, and it was not there for the marriage of George. William and Sophie isn't legal in Britain. The King and Queen of Greece has their marriage approved. Dana says, Noreen Lynch, Elliott has so many great adds to his channel, the personal touch. Thank you. One thing I do always try to do is get you guys involved too, and of course this is one point in the week where we can all get together and talk about the royal family and our shared love in royal history, and the members of the royal family. Okay. Hello to CM Moon. And yes, the Royal Marriages Act does cover certain aspects of who approves whose marriage, but usually it was amended, so the Queen only has to give royal consent to people. I think it's 6th or 7th place in line. Jamie says, I just waited 15 minutes to see if you'd noticed I wasn't here, and you didn't. Well, we're really busy, but it's not to say that you weren't missed. So hello to Jamie, who's just joined us. Melody says, why didn't Princess Marina and Alice Montague Douglas Scott want to be known as Dowager Duchesses? Because it's, I suppose it's the association with being like an ex something. So of course being Princess first name is a lot, I suppose it brings a lot more status. Noreen Lynch says, there are lots of nicknames in the royal family besides Harry. Edward the VIII was called David. Yes, of course he was. And the Queen is Lilibet. That's her childhood name. And William was called Wombat. Yes, he was. Emily says, how did Harry meet Meghan? Well, there's some speculation. There's slightly two different stories for that. Some say they were introduced through friends in Toronto when Harry visited last year for the Invictus Games. And some say they were introduced through friends and met for the first time in London. Which one is true? I'm not entirely sure, but it's either of those options. Caroline says, hello Elliott, and hello everybody. You're kind of late. You're not too late, only 20 minutes. So hello to Caroline. Susan says they meet at Facebook. I'm not entirely sure they met on Facebook, although it is speculated that Harry does have a Facebook account. Caroline says, love the braces. Thank you very much. And Dana says, I speculate that this head together was Harry's idea. It seems to have a great relationship with them both. I read rumours that Prince Charles was outraged that it was all about... yes, the outrage story. I mean, I saw that on the Daily Mail, and I haven't done a report on that because I don't think that's true either. I think Prince Charles will be very, very happy that his children and daughter-in-law are doing so well with their campaign. I think the fact that Harry spoke about his feelings and spoke about Diana wouldn't bring him any outrage. Why would it? It's helping Harry to get better. I don't think any father would feel like that. So I haven't reported on that story because I didn't think it was true. And how would that newspaper know anyway? It all seems a little bit fake to me, which is why I haven't reported on it. Ohio says, I love your rants, please continue. Don't get me started on my rants. Freya says, the Royal Marriages Act used to be applicable to all descendants of George III. Yes, but it was amended in 2011, as I said, to the first 5. There you go, 5. And Jamie says, flowers changed again. Nice touch. Yes, these flowers are, in fact, real flowers. The flowers previously were fake flowers. These are indeed real. So I hope you like them. I have a sunflower. Melody says, would Diana have approved of Meghan? I believe so. I can't see why not. But of course, again, we'll never know. It's one of those things. And Dana says she thinks it was fake news too about Charles being outraged. Jamie says, do your dungarees match your pants? Well, like any good news reader, you're not going to see below. So you will not know what's below. Hey, if you want to know, maybe I could take a picture for Patreon. What's below? Who knows? I could show you on Patreon. Ohio says, true Noreen, I hate the computerized voices. They are so annoying, aren't they? I wish YouTube would ban that. It's crazy. Well, of course, as you all know, in my narration videos, it's my own voice. And to be honest, I never really like listening to my own voice. I've never liked it. So I usually just record it and then don't listen again to it because of that. But yes, computerized voices are a big no-no. I don't like them. Angel says, you don't know what you're saying out of your mouth. Can see that the Queen, see in you the Queen one time and not again. I'm not entirely sure what that sentence is saying. Political Vector says, can't imagine Queen Elizabeth would approve of Harry marrying Meghan. Why not? I can't see a reason why she wouldn't approve. Don't forget that the Queen married for love herself, and she defied everyone to marry Philip. So I believe that the Queen is a big believer in that love conquers all. Dana says the same thing was said during the divorce from Diana, that no one recognised what he did as a father. I think he was a very good father to the children. It's just it wasn't ever reported, and of course he wasn't very expressive as what Diana was. Caroline thinks Diana would approve because she'd have wanted Harry to be happy. Emily says, if Harry were to have children, do you think they'd be well known like Prince George and Princess Charlotte? I bet, definitely yes. Nina says, will Meghan have to join the Church of England if she marries Harry? No, because that act was amended so that Harry can marry a Roman Catholic and not lose his place in the line of succession. Dana says, fresh flowers every week, please. Well, that's a good idea. I'll have to see what I can do. Melody says, why did they wait so long to invest Prince Charles as the Prince of Wales? Basically, because he was, when he was born, he was technically declared Prince of Wales, but they waited until he was an adult before the investiture. Noreen says, I think it seemed like the Duchess of Cambridge brought them all together for the Heads Together campaign. Elliott did a video on where they discussed it at a picnic table. I think it was basically, it was all 3 of their heads coming together. That's why it's Heads Together. Possibly spearheaded by Harry's turmoil. And maybe they all just literally came together, put their heads together, and came up with Heads Together. I think that's, you know, probably Harry having his issues got them talking to each other. And I think that's probably how it came to pass. Dana said, but I do want to see what's behind the door. Yes, well, on Patreon, I did post a little snippet of what's behind the door, and I said I was going to put a picture or make a video of what's behind the door, and I will do. So coming this week, there will be something, a picture or a video of what's behind the door. Dana says you have a great speaking voice. Thank you very much. And Jamie says, not seen below. Please don't say you're only dressed on top. Oh, well, who knows? I might not need to have anything on below the computer. Maybe some newsreaders don't. Freya says your voice is wonderful. And Caroline says you sound fine to me. Well, thank you, but I still don't like the sound of my own voice. Karen says it's wonderful the royals are being so open about such an important topic as mental health. Yes, because basically what they're saying is that when they're out on their royal engagements, everything comes back to mental health. Whenever they're talking to the people that they meet, an issue always relates to some kind of mental health. So they see it as being an overarching factor in a lot of people's problems. And I can see that could be definitely true. Dana says the press went crazy trying to get the photos of Charles with the boys while they were grieving. It was awful. Yes, but I think you know, the media did play ball to a certain point and let them grow up past that point, past Diana's death. There was deals made with the press, and they were largely left alone, or as alone as what they possibly could be. Angel says, yesterday Queen Elizabeth said in the royal family at Christmas time, she says it's true. I'm not quite sure what you're saying about Christmas. Of course, she does have all the family around at Christmas. I made some videos about that. But what are you actually saying that Queen Elizabeth said about people at Christmas? Dana says there are peer-to-peer support groups here in the US for mental health. That's really good to know. And of course, having access to the facilities and having the facilities there in the first place is a big part of it. And I think in the UK, people are talking about mental health now more. So there needs to be now a lot more put into the support network and the availability of that for people who want to take that further to the professional level. Jamie says the state opening of Parliament is going to be a bit of a disappointment this year. Yes, and that was one of my notes that I got. So the state opening of Parliament is going to be scaled back. There's not going to be as much pomp and circumstance and ceremony as what there normally is. The Queen will wear day dress, just her normal clothes with a hat. She will have the crown carried before her. That's the imperial state crown, so she won't wear it. She'll still sit on the throne, I believe, and make the exact same speech that she would have done, but there won't be the big fanfare. She won't be arriving by state coach. She'll be arriving by car. And we don't think she'll wear the diadem either. So why is this? It's because of the UK snap election, which Theresa May announced, and it's because the state opening of Parliament was pushed back because of the election that we're going through, our general election to choose our next Prime Minister and government. So what the Buckingham Palace is saying is that there's not enough time to rehearse the two events close together, and that is Trooping the Colour and the state opening. So because the Queen doesn't want to miss Trooping the Colour, she cancelled the Garter Day ceremony, which is the same day as the election, to make things a bit more simple and obviously scale back on the ceremony for the opening of Parliament. So a bit of a disappointment, but she will still be attending and I will still be reporting on it. And of course, because it's a lot different this year, it may be slightly more interesting. But I'm sure everything will be back to normal for next year. Will Dawson says, Elliott has too much swag for the rest of us. But I don't think I've ever been described as having any swag ever, so that's quite entertaining to me. And Dana says, Patreon, a weekly outfit photo. Oh, I couldn't I? That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. And of course, Dana is one of our patrons too. So thank you, Dana, for your subscription to Royal Review at Patreon and being one of my patrons. Will says, what's wrong with being naked at the computer? I am. Oh my goodness, I can't get that image out of my head now. And Van Isle is saying, oh, Will, and laughing. Yeah, I can't get that image out of my head now. Jamie says, but imagine visiting London from the 10th of July to the 24th of July. You'd see that and think you'd see the state visit opening of Parliament and summer opening of Buckingham Palace. Yes. So you would have a double whammy, as they say in America, more bang for your buck. And Jamie says, and the Diana exhibition, yes, which of course is on at Kensington Palace, and you can not only see the exhibition, you can see the newly planted memorial sunken garden. Emily says, has Meghan met the royal family? We believe she's met certain members. We think she's met William and Catherine, but at separate occasions. But of course, because she's been staying at Kensington Palace in Harry's cottage, Nottingham Cottage, I'm sure they have all seen each other. I can't believe they wouldn't have done. But I'm not so sure about the Queen. She's possibly met Charles and Camilla, but again, that is just speculation. But usually, if you're very serious about a partner, you would let them meet your family. Noreen says, I can't believe we have another election again. It's too much political upheaval. I wonder what the Queen thinks about it all. I think the Queen just wants a strong and stable government, because having a weak one wouldn't really be good for her. So I just think she probably wants to get it all out of the way and sorted. Dana says, I am amazed that in Britain the Queen can ask and get privacy from the press. Well, I don't think it's so much that they have to do it, it's that they have respect. And if it's a two-way street, if the royal family give certain aspects to the press, sort of regular access with photos and information, then they are largely left alone in their private lives. And of course, lessons have been learned from Diana's tragic death. Political Vector says, Royal Reviewer, I only recently discovered your channel and I'm becoming addicted to it. I'm American and think you are a star in the making. Thank you. I'm not quite sure what kind of star, but thank you very much. I'm really pleased that you enjoy my videos. And please say you don't subscribe to the top half. Angel says, watch E-News. OK USA, one person who's talked to the royal family today. Well, I haven't seen that. We're in Britain, so I haven't seen that interview, so I can't really comment on it, I feel. Freya says, why did Diana and Sarah fall out 6 months before the former's death? Well, I think it had been longer than that. I think I read somewhere that they'd fell out for over a year. And I think they were just probably on the verge of making up. But then obviously Diana died and couldn't really do that. And I think probably Sarah would probably feel quite sad about that. Of course, we don't know the exact reasons why, but don't forget Sarah had gone through her divorce before Diana and was trying to make her own way in the world. And there may have been a little bit of a clash between the two for media attention. We have to put ourselves back in the positions of the 90s, and there was in the press rivalry between them. So there's probably something a little bit more to do with that. Will says, how are Princess Anne and Tim Lawrence? Again, everyone asks about are they splitting up, are they having a divorce, but they don't speak about it. No information has been leaked. We don't even know that they are necessarily having marriage problems, so we can't comment on that. Angel says, you need to talk to the royal family. I would love to. If they can get in touch with me, call me. No, that's call me. Call me. My fingers today. Call me. Noreen says, Sarah suggested that shoes she had borrowed from Diana had given her verrucas. I'm not sure about that. Sarah wrote that as an anecdote. Oh my goodness, well, I hadn't heard that story. And apparently it offended Diana. I hadn't heard that. And in fact, I haven't read the Sarah book, I will confess. So perhaps it's that book, and I'll have to read it if there's anecdotes like that in there. Kimberly says, damn, missed half. Don't worry, you can watch on catch up. Will says, will you name one of your future children after a royal? Well, I was thinking if ever I did have children, what would I call them? And I was thinking James for a boy. Yeah, James. I quite like James, and that is a royal name. And for a girl, it's not a royal name, but I quite like the idea of Pearl. I quite like Pearl. So James and Pearl. Caroline says, why does it seem that William and Catherine are more well received in America than in your own country? Only because I read that in the comments in the UK about them are negative. I think in the UK, because there is, I suppose, a half right, half incorrect view that they are publicly funded. Of course, the public don't directly contribute to William and Catherine's funding as such, because they receive their funding from their father, who gets his money from his own Duchy of Cornwall, which funds the heir to the throne and his family. So I think the public kind of get a sense that we're paying for them, but they don't see William as being a particularly hard worker, and nor do they Catherine. Of course, Diana, at the same point in life, was doing far more engagements than what Catherine was. Catherine is being a very hands-on full-time mother with George and Charlotte and doing royal engagements. William is half-time, part-time helicopter pilot and part-time royal duties. But at this point in their lives, if you do a comparable, Charles and Diana were doing far much more royal engagements. And as we have an elderly queen, although still very sprightly and active, I think the public see that perhaps they should be doing more to help the Queen and start to do full-time duties, which is what they are doing. William is giving up his job as a helicopter rescue pilot, and they're moving back to London full-time, to Kensington Palace, and they will be doing full-time royal duties. I still think Catherine will be a very hands-on mother, but I think you will see the younger royals stepping up to the mark. So hopefully that perception in the UK that they're work shy will go from September onwards. I really do hope. I hope that answers your question. Melody says, if everyone died and Prince George became king, would they crown him as a little boy? No, they would most likely proclaim him as king. The Regency Council would appoint a regent, and he would be crowned when he was old enough, possibly 18. Or maybe even, as is the custom now, royals going to university, could be after university even. So 21, 22. Jamie says, these chats get more 18 plus by the week. I think we're still very much PG. Kimberly says, agree, he's a star in the making. Thank you very much. And if Lorraine Kelly is watching, I would love to have a royal slot on your show. For those of you who don't know, she is a breakfast TV presenter and has her own show. And I would love to do a royal reviewer feature on Lorraine Kelly, or even this morning. So if you're looking, if anyone's looking and watching, please think of me. Dana says, I know Barack Obama asked for his daughter's privacy. The press invaded Chelsea Clinton's life unbearably. So yes, lessons learned. Yes, I definitely think so. And of course, we'd have to be a pretty rotten society not to learn those lessons. Noreen says, no, if Jordan's under 18, you would have a regent. Exactly. Dana says, do you have any opinion about Sarah? My own opinion is that I just think she just gets herself into trouble really easily. Personally, I think she should just get back with Andrew and become a working royal again. I think it's safer for her to be a working royal than being able, although she can make her own money out in the world, not being married to Andrew. I think together it would take a lot of stress off her financially. I think life would actually be simpler, although for her possibly a bit more dull, and she might feel like she's back in the cage. But things have changed, as we've just said, from when she was a working royal in the 80s. So I think she should give it another go, but of course that's entirely up to her. Melody says, but Mary Queen of Scots was crowned as a baby and Edward VI as a child. I mean, of course, we're going back to the Tudor times, and they very much needed symbols of monarchy. And really, I don't think that would happen today. We don't need the same visuals and clarity that they needed back then. I think we're quite happy to accept that he would be proclaimed a king, but not crowned until he was older. Okay, let me see. I think I need to go down because I've missed a few questions. Oh, okay, I've missed quite a few questions. Need to go back up again. Okay. Okay, Will says, did Kate really date Sam Branson? I'm not so sure about that. I think they were good friends, but not necessarily that she dated him. Dana said the press was horrid to Sarah about her weight. Yes, and of course that one particular nickname did stick for a very long time. Angel saying May the 7th on ABC is a show about Diana's death. So those of you who can get that channel who want to watch, there you go. Jamie says there is now basis on the Anne and Tim situation. What is that? Let me know. Dana says interviewing a local historian about Shropshire history. I would love to be interviewed. Jamie says James is my name, so I'm not upset with that. Well, there you go. I definitely. Oh, and Melody says, what is my middle name? My middle name is William, which is another royal name. So if I had a child, it would probably be called James William. Freya says, will George go to Ludgrove like his father? I don't think so. I think very much with their choice of pre-prep school that they've got for George, it wasn't what we all thought it was going to be. So I think they're going to be making their own way with the education choices. They aren't going to follow necessarily the choices that Charles and Diana made for them. Ohio says, sorry, had to leave, was behind, busy time of the day. You're juggling family dinner and watching the live chat. And Angel says, Queen Elizabeth says this show on TV is a good thing. Marilyn says it seems Prince Harry is more front on centre than Prince William and Catherine. Yes, I mean, he's certainly doing a lot of work and engagement by himself, especially in the last couple of weeks. Caroline says, yes, it does, but I would still support the future king if I lived there. Will says, I found you on Facebook. Well, there you go. I'm not sure which one, because I've got quite a few Facebooks, actually, for different things. I'm not weird. I haven't got loads of Facebooks for different reasons, but I have got some different accounts for different purposes. Caroline says, it says something about the moral of the country, just saying. Chris says, is it real that Prince Charles is getting a divorce? No, it's not real. And I can imagine you've got that information from the YouTube channel, The Top Half, which all of its content is just lies. So please unsubscribe. It's just complete made up rubbish. Melody says, what's your opinion on It's a Royal Knockout? I think it was funny. That's, of course, the show that was in the 80s that Prince Edward made and the royals took part in. I don't think it necessarily showed them in a particularly wonderful light. I mean, it showed them in humour and having good fun, but perhaps it did let a little bit too much light in the window. And of course, it's never been repeated since. Chris says, I don't have sound. So give thumbs up or down. Down. Down, 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 down. So that's to Chris, it's down. Angel says yes. And Angel says Kate Middleton or Catherine is to be the next queen. Definitely Camilla. Kimberly says, beautiful flowers in your vase. Are they from your garden? No, I confess they are from the supermarket. It's a little bit too early for those kind of flowers in this country. Our weather hasn't gotten that good yet. But I will try and grow. I normally grow sweet peas in the summer, so hopefully I'll have a lovely display of sweet peas for my summer videos. Freya says, what's the status on Brooksbank and Eugenie? Haven't heard anything from them yet. Still no wedding announcement. And we still don't know if she's moved into the Kensington Palace cottage, Ivy Cottage, because it had problems. It had damp problems, and we don't know if they've been sorted out yet. But as soon as I know, I will let you know. Van Al says, I once read that Prince Philip doesn't like Sarah. I read that he quite liked her spirit, although I do think he probably wishes that she'd tone it down a little. So you say, so perhaps she and Andrew are waiting until he passes before getting back together. It's a feasible point. But again, as with lots with the royal family, we aren't going to know until it happens. Van Al says, I knew it. I knew your middle name was William. There you go. And Dana says, thanks, Angel. Noreen says, when is Eugenie getting married? We don't know. It's not been announced. I think the fact that it was leaked to the press has probably made them put it back a little bit. MSMB 2012 says, hello. Always enjoy your chats. Thank you very much. You have a great channel. Very excited for Harry's possible marriage to Meghan. I think we all are, definitely. And I'm looking forward to an announcement should one come. Emily says, how many children would you like Harry to have? Oh, that's entirely up to him. One would be enough. Susan says, Harry marriage to a Kenyan woman. If you mean Meghan's heritage, I'm not entirely sure which where her heritage goes back to, but it possibly could be Kenya. And of course, we're talking about her mother, I think. I think it's her mother. Will says, if it does hopefully happen, where do you think Princess Anne will have her third wedding? I don't think she will. I think she'll stay together with Tim. But if she was to get married again, it could be somewhere low-key, like the Chapel Royal, perhaps. Dana says, there is the official royal family channel created by ITN. There is, and that has lots of video clips. So, of course, what's on there is true and accurate. Political Vet says, Elliott, what do you know about Camilla's heavy drinking and horrible scenes she's causing while lashing out at Prince Charles? Do you think they will remain together? Well, as dramatic as that sounds, it's complete nonsense. None of that is true. And I'm getting lots of comments about Camilla in my comment section of my videos saying that she's a drunk. It's all just not true. Again, that's all come from the YouTube channel The Top Half. Please unsubscribe. I will say it again. It's just a complete load of nonsense. Don't even waste your time watching it. If something is likely to be true or is true, then I will post it on my channel. Those stories are complete fake. Dana says, Freya, yes, are the girls going to be officially taking on duties? Yes, hopefully. Eugenie and Beatrice, once capacity is reached by William, Harry and Catherine, then there may be a need for them to officially take on duties. I think it would be silly not to have the blood princesses of the United Kingdom doing some kind of formal role for the royal family, and I think their time will come. Oh dear says, are you able to tell me what the Queen does with the lovely flowers she collects from people? I believe she has some sent back to wherever she's staying, and then the rest are distributed to local nursing homes and charities and any hospitals where flowers are allowed. Kimberly says, I wonder what the Queen thinks of Meghan Markle. Again, we don't know officially, but I don't think she'd have anything bad to say. And you say, I keep wondering if she gives her flashbacks to her uncle and his American wife. If she's had flashbacks, then she's had them already with Charles and Camilla. So I don't think Harry and Meghan are going to be a particular problem. And I think she's probably very supportive. Will says, I think I've gone past a few things here. Let me go back up. I am a bit behind. You'd like to see Princess Anne date somebody way younger, maybe a gentleman in his 30s, and they can marry at St George's. Well, there you go. That is one option for her. If Princess Anne is thinking of being a cougar, can we imagine a cougar Princess Anne? I don't know. And Jamie says, yes, very nice garden you have. I might be making some more videos on my garden. Freya says, oh, Will, Tim Lawrence exists. You will have to accept that. Yes, you can't have Princess Anne. Although maybe I'd look good with a Princess Anne hairdo. Bill Dawson says, boo. Flamethrower Gamer says, cool videos. How much did that suit cost? If you mean this outfit, the shirt is new today. The brace is new-ish. Got a new bow tie. It's red. And the brooch was from the Buckingham Palace website. So I can't really remember how much it cost altogether. But yes, I've been buying some new clothes recently. Noreen says Princess Anne and their children are not showy. That's true. And you say about Peter married at St George's and Zara married in Edinburgh. And Van Al says, I think we all need to pledge to stop watching the top half. The more people that watch it, the more it perpetuates it. So yes, please do. Will Dawson says, do you belong to a political party? In the UK, yes, I do. And that would be the Conservatives. MSMB 2012 says, I just assume Computerized voices on YouTube are not to be watched. Yes. I think we can all assume that. Emily says, what do you think Harry will name his future children? Well, something that's not already in existence. So possibly, if William doesn't take up Elizabeth, possibly Elizabeth, maybe Victoria, possibly Philip after his grandfather. Jamie says, why would anybody bear to watch the computer voice anyway? Flamethrower Gamer says, what do you think Harry will wear at the wedding? Possibly the same kind of suit he wore to the previous wedding he went to. So I just think a normal suit. Freya says it's like the temperature movement with all the Camilla judgment, that she likes alcohol, big deal. I mean, there was a revelation recently in a new book about the Queen Mother that she drank a fair amount in the day. I don't think Camilla does necessarily drink that much. I don't even know where it's come from. I think it's just a very easy accusation. Camilla, the drunk. And of course, when you put it out there for people to see, some people believe it. It just spirals and it turns into a big rumor, and some people believe it, and it's not true. Kimberly says Meghan is beautiful. If Harry and Meghan does get married, they would have cute kids. Yes, more than likely. Jamie says, Elliott, the picture on Patreon does not show much behind the door. No, it doesn't, because I only left it ajar slightly. Maria says, hi, Elliott. Hi to Maria. Dana says, Camilla is really adapting to her role. I think she is. I think in the recent months, she's been looking very much the Queen Consort. And I think she is very much like a rock to Charles. She's very stoic, very much, in a way, a bit like the Queen Mother was. And yes, their story was tragic because she couldn't marry Charles in the first place. I would agree with you on that one. Noreen says, I think Camilla is very normal and down to earth. I think that's why Prince Charles likes her. I think he also likes her because she reminds him of his grandmother. Always there, very stable, giving support, in a way, motherly. And I think Charles does need a little bit of mothering. And he needs someone who doesn't have any needs herself. And of course, she's a very stable, solid person, very sure of herself and her place. She doesn't seem to crave the attention. She's never spoken out about the royal family. So I think that's probably why he does like her and get on with her so much, and why they're so suited. Freya says, I'm a member of the Tories too. Well, there you go. Jamie says, Elliot, please do more videos about your garden and different things, please, that are the best. Well, I was considering a different channel, because obviously this is a royal channel, and I could, of course, just put different videos on it about my life and different things that I'm interested in. But then I think maybe people would start saying, you know, this isn't royal related, please keep it to royal related things. So I'm not sure whether I should start a new channel about things in my own life that I want to talk about. So let me know what you think. Should I start a new channel, the Elliott Phillips channel, a bit like Joey Graceffa or Zoella, some of the other big YouTubers? Maybe I should have my own one about me. I don't know. Would people watch it? And Jamie says, the top half is a little keyboard warrior. Yes, definitely. And I would love to know who it is who's actually controlling the top half, who's actually making those videos. I would love to know, because they're just so fake. They really are fake. No, let me see. Going back to last week, the London Marathon was a very big news event. I did lots of news videos about it. Let me know what you think. I think it was a big success, and William, Catherine and Harry seem to enjoy it immensely. Dana says, Charles' acceptance speech for the Renaissance man in Italy was great. Yes, if you want to watch that video, go into the Charles playlist, the Prince of Wales playlist, and watch it, because it was a really good speech. And you became a fan of him for the restoration of the gardens at Highgrove. I have a Highgrove book, and they do look amazing, and it is one of my wish lists to go and see. And I was thinking of putting that as one of my future goals on Patreon, for me to go and visit it and film it, or at least film what I'm allowed to film. Although I think you can film the gardens at Highgrove, and report to you all on what I see. So that's going to be one of my future goals for Patreon. And yes, is promotion of organic farming. I believe that Highgrove has a reed bed system which recycles all the water from the house. I mean, it is very, very interesting if you're into organic farming, and how to be economical with our resources. Will Dawson says, please, please, please create your own channel. And you would watch the Elliott Phillips channel. Thank you. Well, maybe I will. Emily says, how old am I? This year in August, I will be 34. Say it quick. Zoe says, oh yes, a visit to Highgrove. I think your free time for several years is booked. There are so many things that I would love to go and see. But of course, you know, they're not all achievable when you have a full-time job, and you know, everything costs money. Everything's, you know, quite expensive in the UK. I think people overseas don't realise how expensive things are in the UK. Kimberly says, Elliot, can remind me again the website where you get the brooches. It's the Royal Collection shop. So if you just type in Google Royal Collection shop, it should come up in the search. And you can find this brooch and many other pieces of jewellery. There are coronation necklaces and all sorts of different brooches and pearls and lots of different things. So if you're into replica royal jewellery, take a look. It's well worth it. And there are also some amazing gifts too. And I'm not sponsored or promoted by the channel. It is the official collection trust shop, and of course all the proceeds, all the profits on that go back into maintaining the royal collection of, you know, artwork and treasures and Fabergé eggs and all kinds of treasures. So, you know, so you know that your money is going to preserve history, which I think is a really good thing. Caroline says it's interesting concerning Charles and Camilla, how they are more accepted in today's age. Well, of course, we have different standards in today's age, so of course you can't really judge them against what the standards were when David was seeing Wallace. And yes, it is a really it's a pertinent thought, because times have changed, times have moved on, and of course the Church of England sanctioned the marriage of Charles and Camilla. So it's all right saying, well, you know, she's a divorcee, that excludes her from becoming queen. It doesn't, because the Church of England said that it was okay, said that they accepted it, said that they recognised it. So by law, they are married. It's recognised by the Church of England. So unless the law is changed, she will be queen. Emily Rose says, "Oh wow, you look really young for your age." Thank you. That's one of that's what I like to hear. How old do I look? Please let me know. How old do I look? Do I look 34? And if anyone says older, I'm turning off the computer. MSMB says we part ways on our opinions of Camilla. Of course, everyone is entitled to their opinion on any member of the royal family. But I would say, you know, judge people on facts rather than fake news. So, you know, lots of people have been looking at fake news recently about Camilla, that she's drunk, that she's fallen out with people. You know, if anyone's basing their opinions on that, I would say please look again at what the facts are. So if you're basing it on things that have actually happened, you know, fine, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But I do believe that everyone should move on and perhaps not hold a grudge. I don't think it's healthy. And I think had Diana lived, just the same as Charles and Camilla are happy, I'm sure Diana would have found her own happiness. And then we'd have a case of, you know, two ex-partners both happy. And I don't think there would perhaps be quite the ill feeling that there is still in existence for her. Freya says, what was the name of the website for the replica George IV diadem? Well, that's again one of my goals that I put on Patreon, and I would love to be able to sit here wearing the George IV state diadem. It's if you type in Google, I forget the actual website, I think it's called stagejewellery.com, and if you type in Stage Jewellery, a website should come up, or type in replica George IV diadem, and if you look for a website that's similar to Stage Jewellery, it should be there. Van Al says, do you have time for a second channel? I would of course watch it, but I wouldn't want to see you overwhelmed. I think if I had a second channel, it wouldn't be as updated as this one. I'd probably perhaps post 1 or 2 videos a week rather than, you know, several a day. I always try to do at least 1 a day, several if I can for my royal channel. But if I had a second one, I probably wouldn't do it as much, unless of course it became really, really popular, and then, you know, hopefully I'd be able to give up my day job to do the channels full time anyway, which would again give me a lot more time to be able to go and visit these places and, you know, have lots of new experiences and fun with royal places of interest. So, you know, maybe a second channel could lead me on to do that. I don't know. Dana says, subscribe to Patreon so Elliott can visit places. It would help. It really would help. I mean, I think I've explained a little bit before about how YouTube, about the situation with YouTube and the money. And basically, you get money from ad revenue, but it's not that much. The only YouTubers that can afford to buy the houses, and, you know, you see them with the cars and all that, they have millions and millions and millions of subscribers. You know, each video gets 1 million, 2 million views. The ad revenue just basically, it probably works out less than a minimum wage job per hour. I mean, if I totted it all up, I think I did once. The amount that you get from the ad revenue, you know, means that you're making less than what you would get on a minimum wage job per hour. So it just compensates you slightly for your time, but it doesn't allow me to do all the things that I really want to do. So anything I do make, I try and put back into the channel. But Patreon is a good way, as I said before, for people to contribute to a channel that they like. It's a bit like giving a tip, only with Patreon you get a reward as well. So it's not just giving to the channel gives back to you something extra as well. So I think it's a really good scheme. I wouldn't have signed up for it if I didn't think that it was good for the viewers and patrons as well. So hopefully if it grows, then I can put that money back into doing a lot more things for the channel. And I hope that explains a little bit more about Patreon if you didn't know about it. I didn't know about it until I looked into it, and then I decided that it was a good thing to do. Annette says, sorry late, just got here, we'll have to catch up. Basket brooch is your favourite. And Elliott, your moisturising routine has done you proud. Thank you. I have moisturised, interestingly enough, since I was 11. And always the same moisturiser as well. MSB says, I would watch a new channel of yours, make it about English life. That's a good idea. Well, of course it would be, because it's me and I live in England, so it would be about me and my life in England. Emily says that she thought I was 25 or 26. Thank you very much. That's a good number of years off my real age. Caroline says, yes, I know it's different, but what I said, I wondered about how different the country would be. Yes, it would definitely be well, actually, it probably wouldn't be different if they had been allowed, because we'd still have the same monarch that we had today. So perhaps there wouldn't be that much difference. Dana says, does the Church of England permit annulments? And Camilla obtained one. As far as I'm aware, she hasn't got an annulment, because I don't think there was any grounds to obtain one. I think she married Tom Parker Bowles quite legally, so no, but certainly it was sanctioned. Their marriage was sanctioned by the church. Political Vet says, Elliott, I thought you were about 27. Well, there you go. I'm getting close to halfway to 40. Retta says, I just think people should remember the truth. One can't show disrespect for marriage. Let me go down a little bit. And be called a wonderful person. She's willing to take down the monarchy to wear Diana's face. I think you have to put yourself, I suppose, in their shoes. And I think having a sound and stable Charles is a good thing for the country. And she did that for him. As I've said before in previous weeks, both Charles and Diana both had needs. They were both quite needy people. There's nothing wrong with that, but they both couldn't give each other the support and fulfill each other's needs, because they both had their own needs. Charles needed a bit of a mother figure. He needed someone to prop him up, very much like Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, propped up George VI. I think Charles, on the face of it, comes across fairly confident, but he's quite a shy and quiet personality, and he does need that stability behind him to allow him to shine, and he does have that need. So Diana, with her own needs, which came from the loss of her own mother when her mother seemingly, walked off and abandoned her when she was young. So she had her own needs. She needed to feel loved. She needed the constant adoration of her husband. And if Charles had been able to give her that, I'm sure the relationship would have worked out fine. But they both had needs. They both couldn't fulfill each other's needs. Camilla could fulfill Charles's needs. and Diana was looking for someone to fulfill her needs. And of course, the tragic thing is she never got to the point where she could find that one person. But I do believe that if she had lived, she could be in a happy place now, and Charles could be in a happy place now, and it would all be water under the bridge. You know, William and Harry have accepted Camilla. I just think perhaps it's time to move on. Will says, did the Queen's cousin really marry a Danish prince? Which cousin are you talking about? I think I've missed loads of questions here. Let's go up. Okay. Amy says, when I heard someone first ask your age, you thought I was 22. Wow. That's very young. I remember when I was 22. Dana says, you look handsome, well put together. 34-year-old, still a young. Thank you. Marilyn says, lots of laughter. I honestly thought you were in your mid-20s. Well, I'm liking all these answers. Jamie says, I spent ages looking for stage jewellery last week and didn't find it. I'll put the link on Twitter. There you go. So if you don't know, there is a Royal Reviewer Twitter, Royal_Reviewer on Twitter. Like me. Of course, it's not just royal tweets on there, because I don't just use it for that. So because of our election, I probably will be posting some political tweets. So please don't hate me for it. Just persevere until the election's over. But I do put royal information on there. So do follow me on Twitter, and I will put the link to the Stage Jewellery site. Annette says, in the US, we would say you have a peaches and cream complexion. Where I am, it's an English rose. You have an absolute baby face. Thought you were in your 20s. Well, thank you. In fact, when I was younger, I did really look baby-faced, and I may have to put some early pictures either on my Twitter or Patreon. Dana says, your one-a-day upload now is wonderful to binge on. Yes, and of course, you know, to help me out a little bit with time, I have adopted a little bit of the, you know, music videos, which I don't particularly like to put out there, but it does help me with time. And you know, when I have the time to do the narration videos, I do. But it does help me out a little bit doing the music videos. Angel says, in Oregon the time is 3:05 p.m. and here it is 13 minutes past 11 in the evening. CM Moon says she thought I was 24. And I'm loving these answers. Dana says, the advertising boycott now makes it harder for smaller channels. My channel only made $0.1. Oh my goodness. For the 30 hours per week for your social media. Oh my goodness. Yes, that is pretty tough. So, you know, for those of you thinking that, you know, channels that are getting, you know, a couple of, I think my channel's up to 4.5 million views, it doesn't get that much money. It really doesn't. Like I say, it's these YouTubers that have millions of subscribers that get millions of views per video are the ones that make the money. And even then, it's not just from the ad revenue. They get money from companies promoting their products and appearing on TV and being in music videos and, you know, promoting products on Twitter and Instagram and everything else. So you don't get a lot of money for the ad revenue. I will say that quite honestly, and I think Dana has just backed me up on that as well. MSMB says, you're Irish. And you can hold a grudge for centuries. Well, that brings me on to something else as well, which I need to say, and I will say it again at the end of the show as well. And that is that not next Saturday, but the week after, it's Eurovision. And anyone who knows me will know I love Eurovision. I've never missed it. I always used to watch it with my grandmother, who's now passed away. And it's a tradition which I always carry on with. So there will be no live chat on the 13th of May. However, I have decided to reschedule it for the Friday. So on the 12th of May, which is the Friday, at 10 o'clock GMT will be the live chat. So not next week, the week after, it will be the Friday, not the Saturday. And I will say that again at the end of the video. And that's for Eurovision, because I love it so much and there is no way I am going to miss Eurovision. Not for anybody. And the reason why the grudge reminded me of it is because we Brits love moaning and complaining about Eurovision, and it's a complete moaning, complaining fest, and I'm so looking forward to it. I love it. So I will be moaning and complaining my way through Eurovision quite happily on that Saturday. Maybe I will make a video, a reaction video of me with Eurovision. I don't know. We'll see. And Angel's watching a movie on Queen Elizabeth when she was a little girl. Kimberly says, what period of the royal family interests you the most? Apart from the present royal family, I would say the Tudors. And if I was to make videos about royal history, I think I would always start with the Tudors. Fuzzy Puppet says, I wonder if Meghan marries Harry, she and Catherine will be compared as sister-in-laws. Probably. And yes, probably very much in the same way Diana and Sarah were. Right, and I think I've missed a few more questions. Let me go up. Okay. Susan thinking Prince Harry will marry a Kenyan. Kimberly says Diana was way too young when she got married to Charles. I think so too. Then we wouldn't have had Harry and William if they hadn't got together. Dana says, I still think that Camilla unwittingly has grown into being the mistress and felt obliged to marry Charles for his loyalty and love. I don't think Camilla is vain. Her strength is her emotional life. Yes, I mean, she is definitely a strong character. I don't think anyone can deny that one. Jamie says, I don't think we should blame Camilla. I think we should blame the weight of the crown, which forced him to marry Diana and then look for support when Diana couldn't support him herself. I think Camilla should be. There you go. Yes, I would love to just end the Camilla bashing and have people move on from it. Caroline says, I don't think so. Charles had a brain, don't you think? Jamie says, I really like Dame Edna. I do too. I love Dame Edna. And if you don't know who she is, Google her. Well, I say her. Freya says, Anne Boleyn married Prince George. My tongue is getting tied tonight. Prince George Valdemar of Denmark. The father was John Boleyn, the Queen Mother's brother. George Valdemar was the great-grandson of King Christian IX of Denmark. Well, there you go. We've had a little history lesson. I'm afraid my knowledge of the Boleyn family doesn't extend quite as extensively as that. But certainly, that's another area and aspect of the monarchy that I would love to go back into. Of course, family history and family trees are very interesting. I have my own done to the 1700s, and I would love to go back and trace it further. And the Queen Mother's heritage is equally as interesting. Jamie says, does the snap election mean there will be a new Prime Minister? The UK does not need more uncertainty. I quite agree with you, it doesn't. I don't think there will be a new Prime Minister. I think it will be the same one, Theresa May re-elected, but of course you never know. If people don't go out and vote, and that's another thing. As far as I'm concerned, I don't mind who you vote for, just vote. You know, if you're old enough and you're able to vote, just vote. Because I think it would be bad for everyone if it was a low turnout election. Caroline says Charles was 12 years older and should have had the balls to say no. If that's what he felt, then I agree. Maureen says, "Hi Elliott, apologies if this is a bit personal, but I know that you are very open and honest. How did you meet your partner?" How did I meet? Well, I met in 2001. I was going to say 2011 then. 2001. And I met on the internet. But of course, it was back then, it was the very early days of the internet, and it wasn't like it is now. And it was actually a chat room, a little bit like this, and I didn't even see a photo, in fact. So I kind of fell in love, I think, with the person before I even saw a photo. And even then, it was a very blurry photo because digital cameras had only just kind of come in back then, and were only just becoming quite popular, I suppose. So I only saw a very grainy photo from a very old webcam. But of course, by then, I'd already, been hooked by the person and the words that I was seeing on screen. So I met, and the rest is history. So yeah, it's ever since 2001, which is a very long time. I'm just trying to go through these questions. Okay, Will says, "I just met a guy on Grindr who is a fan of your videos." No way. You're lying. Fake news. Did you really? Political Vector says, "Elliott, what job do you have in the real world, and how far from London is my hometown?" Well, I'll start with the end bit of your question first. I'm in the middle of England, in Shropshire, which is near the Welsh border, and probably by train and by car, I'm sort of 2.5, 3 hours, 3.5 hours by car, possibly, depending on traffic, away from London. So it's not a quick visit. And I don't get to go that often, but I am going in August for my birthday. The third bit of your question, what do I do for a day job? I work in a school with special needs children and disabled children. So I support them in their learning for school. Susan says, "Noreen Lynch, day and night people, yes." So I'm just trying to scan these, and I need to catch up on these questions. Dana says, "Oh my God, I love Eurovision. We only see it in the US through YouTube." I love Eurovision, and it's happening, and I normally end up having a one-person party on my own. So maybe I can invite you all to watch. I mean, I'm not sure you might be quite bored just watching me watching Eurovision. I don't quite know if you'd like that or not. Jamie says, "Say no to who, Caroline? It's his choice in the end." Caroline says, "Exactly, should have had the balls to say no to the marriage." Jamie says, "For those who don't know, you will fill them in on Eurovision. It's basically a song contest where each European country puts up a country to compete in a song contest. In the final, each country votes." Yes, so, but there are also heats, but I don't watch the heats because I like to watch the final show, not knowing who's in there. And it's basically a big spectacle, and usually you can just throw lots of criticism at it and enjoy throwing that criticism. So I really enjoy it, and maybe I'll show it you. Dana says, "I have been researching the days when Britain was not yet a united country, 400 to 800 AD. I'm not going to dispute you on that because I haven't looked back that far. But I certainly know that we have in Britain got a long history of invasion, the Norman conquest and Vikings and all kinds of invasions. And Britain has been fought and over and won and lost many times, and we have lots of influences from overseas because of that." Jamie says, "And generally vote to the country that is nearest or with the most people in it." Yes, so basically there's a lot of political voting. So countries, their closest neighbours, their neighbouring countries, usually give them the most points. So it's all very political, but it is funny. And we Brits like to, if I want to use a British expression, take the P out of Eurovision, but we really enjoy doing it. So we moan about it, but we enjoy it. Well, some of us do anyway. Okay, Loretta says, if you debate Charles and Diana's needs, you will miss Camilla's actions. Rewarding the adulterer mocks marriage. Why was there 3 in Diana's marriage? And what about the pain Camilla has caused? Well, let me break that one down if I can. I don't think people have forgot anyone's actions. And of course, you know, that if Charles and Diana hadn't have had the needs that they had, there wouldn't have been the issues in the first place. And I think it was, you know, their marriage was on a one-track way to disaster from the beginning because of that. And I don't think you necessarily have to blame anyone for it because of that reason, because it was on a one-track course to disaster from the beginning. What we should really be kind of, in a way, happy for is that Charles eventually managed to get something from the disaster, and that was happiness. And like I say, it wouldn't have been quite so tragic if Diana hadn't died. I think she would be probably fulfilled and with her own happiness anyway, and then I don't think this would have been even an issue. And I think some people do have long memories, but I don't think their relationship would have survived even if Camilla hadn't been on the scene. I think it would still have failed and been a miserable marriage, if that makes sense. Noreen says, I wish the Queen did a weekly live chat on YouTube. Well, if she does, then I wish she'd do it on mine. Caroline says, the best to come out of the marriage was Prince William and Harry. I agree. Annette is a Tudor history junkie, so colourful and interesting. I agree with that too. And I would love to be making some videos starting with Henry VII on that. Jamie says, can you imagine? Thank you for watching. Yes, I could say thank you for watching me in Balmoral. From me in Balmoral, goodbye. Susan says, Angel, talking to Angel, so Queen is now a banker who borrows money. I don't think she'll be trying to find a job anytime soon. Elaine says, I'm late this evening. Any truth in Kylie and Andrew? I don't think so. Dana says, back then we all fell in love on the internet. Yes, well, it was a good way of meeting people. Jamie says, wow, when your relationship is longer than my life. Yes, it's a long time. It's coming up to 17 years. Oh my goodness. And then Henry laughing at Will Dawson. I really am behind tonight in these comments. Greta says, I'm for forgiveness, but why can't the people call a spade and move on and support Prince Charles? I would agree with that comment wholeheartedly. I mean, the whole relationship breakdown was regrettable, but I think it was inevitable. And at least salvage from the ashes is some degree of happiness. Will Dawson says, I swear, after we swapped pickle pics, he asked me what I was doing, probably hoping I would say I was. But you said you were watching Royal Reviewer, and he geeked out. Oh my goodness, no way. I can't believe that. That is so funny. Okay, you've made my night with that comment. Noreen says, yes, I don't think we would get a chance to ask questions though. I would love to do a chat with the Queen. That would be so good. Elaine says, I think the children you teach are very lucky to have you as their teacher. I'm sure it's very rewarding for you. It is a very rewarding job and a very tiring one too. So when I get back from work and I start making my videos, sometimes I do get very tired, which is why sometimes it's a relief that I've allowed myself to do the music picture videos, because I think sometimes you do have to give yourself a little bit of time for relaxation, and I do try to do that now. Jamie says, please let us watch Eurovision with you. I'm not, well, I'd have to set the camera up on me watching the Eurovision to do that. Noreen says, yeah, do a Royal Reviewer Gogglebox style Eurovision. We would love it. I could do that. I will have to see. Ned says, hi from Jacksonville, Florida. Hello to all in Florida and wherever you are in the world. Freya is having a Eurovision party with loads of your friends. I've never been to a Eurovision party. It's usually just me. But I would love to go to one. I really would. And Kimberly says it does sound like a great idea. Annette says, Loretta, yes, agree, no need to glamorise, but move on. You're friendly with your ex and the person you cheated with, but just be grown up. I would agree with that. Okay, Angel says, I think we're talking about some special needs here. You say, I'm blind and can't see and have autism and no money to get there. Please, like I said, Queen Elizabeth and the royal family are okay, and you'd love to come and see the Queen and the royal family. Right, well, Angel, that's just explained to me a little bit about yourself. And of course, as I said before, I work myself in a special needs school. So I work with lots of children who do have, similar issues to yourself. 50% of my school population is autistic. We do have people that have some sight problems. So I can put myself a little bit now and understand about your situation. So now that I know that, I can try to make this chat a little bit more accessible to you. And of course, I always try to do that with my videos anyway, is to, in fact, that's one of the reasons why I started to make narration videos in the first instance, was so that anyone who was hard of sight could hear what the video was about, even if they couldn't see the video. So that's why I started to make the narration videos. And so I'm going to try and make more narration videos, because of course I want this channel to be very inclusive of everybody. Dana said, the present royal story of the Windsors will be as historic as the Tudors. I loved the Tudor TV show. I was really sad when it finished, and I would have loved it to have carried on well into Queen Elizabeth's reign. That's Elizabeth I. But I really hope that they don't, cut short the Windsors with the crown. Caroline says, good night, Elliot. Have a good week. Good night to Caroline. Will says, did Philip and Zsa Zsa Gabor have an affair? I don't think so. I think all these little rumours about Philip having an affair aren't really true. Angel says, I live in an apartment for a 32-year-old and I have no money. And you have to live in a state of a hole. And Annette says, Dana, Zoe, wouldn't it be so fun to read the histories of the Windsors in 100 years? I think it would. I think a lot of source material will come to light, and there'll be lots of really good accounts written in the future by future historians of our time. Dana says, the music picture videos are wonderful, thank you. Jamie says, what kind of disabilities do the kids suffer from? All kinds. Like I said, 50% of the school is autistic. Then there's lots of different varying disabilities, physical conditions, and just general learning difficulties. So it's a very encompassing, whole-encompassing population of students, I should say. Freya says, if you want to come to my party, you can message me. Wow. Where are you, Freya, in the country? Dana says, thanks for sharing your physically disabled with a spinal cord injury. And Freya says, did you see The White Queen? Yes, and I read the book as well. Ned says, I heard a rumour that Catherine was pregnant again. I spoke about this earlier on. Usually we find out if Catherine is pregnant pretty early on, usually a couple of weeks, because she has morning sickness and then she's put into hospital. That hasn't happened, so I'm assuming she's not pregnant at the moment. Okay, Noreen says, Dana, bless you, I think you have a wonderful positive attitude. Annette says, I have 2 grandchildren with autism. Really appreciate special needs teacher like you. My kids advanced to regular mainstream classes and are doing well. There's no reason why people with autism can't do well. It's just basically a different way that your brain thinks. And the biggest trouble for an autistic person is that the world around them isn't set up for the needs of autism. And basically at a special needs school, we teach our children techniques about how to cope in the outside world and how to live and survive with basically a world that's not set up for you. Banal says, what's on the horizon for the Royals in the coming week? I only have one note, I think, in my diary, but I haven't updated it too much. I know that on Wednesday, the 3rd of May, Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, is visiting a farm for city children. So I think that's a scheme where people who live in the inner cities who don't get to see the countryside are taken to a farm on the outskirts of London, or whichever big city it might be, probably London, and they're taken to a farm and they get to see animals which they've probably never seen before, and they get to see proper countryside. So that will be that should produce some interesting photos. And then on the week of Eurovision week, Catherine has a visit to Luxembourg, all on her own, no William. And the royal trio are hosting a tea party at Buckingham Palace for parents of the armed forces. Kimberly says, how much is rent on a house or apartment with 1,300 square foot? From where I am, I mean, in London, that would be a lot of money. Where I am, a typical house is probably £600 a month on average. Annette says, still close with a former special needs teacher. They are so proud of the kids' accomplishments. Yes, it's always wonderful to revisit ex-students and see how they progressed and what they're doing in their lives. Kimberly says, loved the book The White Queen and the Red Queen. I've read those 2. Philippa Gregory is the author, and she's a really good author, but I think there is quite a lot of artistic license in her fiction books. I really like Alison Weir fiction books because they are very, very, very historically accurate. Dana says, thanks, Noreen. Special needs is a rewarding field to work in, and you admire my passion for the work. Noreen says, I also agree with Anne Fernier, be classy and move on from the past. But you don't have to forget, but just, like I say, move on. And Dana says, do you have a PO box for us to send you mail? I said I was going to look into it, and I haven't, I confess. But I don't see why I can't do that. I will look into it. Freya says, will Camilla's children ever receive some sort of title? I doubt it. The last royal stepchildren were Richard and Thomas Grey, and they received titles. But yes, as you said, that was 600 years ago. I don't think that will happen in today's world, especially with Charles's views that he wants to scale back the monarchy slightly. Noreen says, yes, Dana, I agree that Elliott has a very calm and caring attitude. I bet he's great at his job. Well, I like to think that I get by. And Jamie says, wait for the marriage problems rumour when Catherine visits Luxembourg alone. Well, I can't wait to see what the top half is going to say about that. Panal says, Catherine is really doing well as a member of the royal family and attending to her duties. I do hope she is soon rewarded with the Queen's Order. I'm sure that will come. Did Camilla get it at 7 years? And this is their 6th year. So I think it's close. Freya says, will Beatrice and Eugenie have big weddings? I think Beatrice and Eugenie's wedding will be very similar to Zara's. Possibly Edinburgh, possibly one of the smaller venues. Maybe not quite as big as St Paul's or Westminster Abbey, but then again, we don't know. Who knows? Until it happens, we don't know. Freya says, I nominate you as the channel resident genealogist. Yes, I think Freya would be very good. Noreen says, I hate the way the media is always looking for trouble in royal marriages. It sells papers, it sells news, it sells papers, and they don't care if it's fake news as long as they get sales. But yes, it really does, you know, it can damage people's, well, it can put people's opinions and skew the opinions, and that can affect the person that it's about, and that's not good. Okay, in the UK this week it was St George's Day, so for anyone who's British, who's English, I should say, happy St George's Day to you. The Queen's horse won as part of the birthday weekend. So the Queen, 91, instead of spending her birthday weekend sitting with her feet up, she went to the horses twice. On her actual birthday, her horse didn't win, but on the second day, on the Sunday, her horse won, and she looked absolutely delighted. So if you go and see the video on that, you will see a very happy looking Queen. And there was also the video this week of Pippa Middleton visiting the church where she's to get married, St Mark's in Englefield, with her parents, Michael and Carol Middleton. So there are pictures of that on my video that I made about that one. Freya says, I want the Queen to give the Middletons a title. If they were to get a title, it would possibly be an earldom, but I'm not quite sure that's going to happen. I don't know. Jamie says, going to go now. See you next week. Love this chat. Goodbye all. Goodbye to Jamie. And see you next week. Noreen says, I really like the people in the Royal Reviewer community. I attract a good crowd. Thank you. Well, yes. All of you guys are absolutely fantastic. And like I say, I really love my live chats. And everyone posting on the videos in general. Freya says, Beatrice and Eugenie's worth is not dependent on their appearance. No. It's definitely not. CM Moon says, my YouTube crashed, but you're back, so welcome back to CM Moon. Prince Harry today also visited the Army versus Navy rugby match. So there are some really good pictures where he was taking selfies with the crowd and having a really good time. So go check that one out as well. Angel says, I want Catherine to help people, to make people more aware of autism and Down syndrome, and possibly help to find a cure for it. Yes, I mean, more work needs to be done, I think, in general with special needs. And certainly, you know, if I was a member of the royal family, that would probably be one of my main areas of work, would be to do a lot more work and awareness around special needs, and, you know, possibly medical research to help people that do have conditions and disabilities, to help them to either perhaps put the brakes, so to speak, on a particular illness if it's a degenerative illness, or even to reverse a condition. So yes, I think more work does need to be done, and not necessarily just Catherine, to do that, but I think the royals in general could help more special needs charities. Dana says, signing off, goodbye from everyone, and and you're in Boston. So goodbye to Dana. Kimberly says, I read The Dragon and the George when you were 11. You just reminded me when you said St. George's Day. By the way, it was a good book. Annette says, I saw the video on the Queen's winning horse race. The other jockeys just left a big enough hole to drive the train through. Maybe it was a gift. Who knows? It could have been a birthday gift. Who knows? But of course, it would be illegal to fix a match that has bets on it. Noreen says, yes, I think Lucy Worsley is wonderful. Van Al says, I love to see the Queen laughing. Yes, I love her smile. It is amazing. Susan says, good night. Annette says, yes, you love Lucy Worsley too. Okay, so I have finished everything on my list, and I'm going to end the chat for tonight. Next week is going to be the same time as normal, Saturday, 10 o'clock GMT. The week after, I'll just say it again for those of you who have missed. It will be the Friday at 10 o'clock because of Eurovision. So next week, normal. The week after, be a Friday. So I hope you've all had a really good week. I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead. And from me in Shropshire, good night and goodbye.